Thank you, Your Excellency, for the clear and precise presentation. I have one or two issues to raise. One, when you look at the areas where budget cuts have been effected, like in the area of electricity and in public facilities, that is the last mile, water and sanitation, roads, school infrastructure, and even construction of TVETs. Actually, the moment you remove money from these areas, you can easily ground the country. And so, in my proposal, why can't we have budget cuts focusing on recurrent expenditure and operations more than in the area of development? So that we raise money for development by effecting budget cuts in the area of operation. For example, there are so many areas like the mergers of parastatals, as has been said, austerity measures in various ministries that are duplicating each other. We've been in this budget committee and we've seen, for example, the commission on Nairobi River being implemented by three ministries, and each of them is bringing a budget here for implementing the same thing. I don't know whether you've been able to identify those duplication of roles so that we can remove money and rechannel this money in this area. And so we can be able to raise money if we are serious. The other thing is, apart from just the normal budget presentations, has the ministry done a 3-5 year projection on austerity measures and say, within the next 4-5 years, if we actually uh, delve into austerity measures properly, we can raise this amount and channel it to development. Finally, what is the impact of the pending bills of 2023-2024 financial year to the 2024-2025 budget? What is the fate of this carryover? Thank you, Chairman.
Secretary General, I think you call him Daktari, I didn't get the name. I think you also spoke about the areas of budget cuts. And I agree with you, if we don't address some of these things, and that's why we hope we can get out of this space where we have to do budget cuts, especially that are very important areas. There are areas like recurrent, and if you look at it, you will see, I don't know if I have it with me here, we have done 100% cut. Let me just go through that area so that you can see which area has suffered what. Yes. On page 17, if you all of the document that you have, that the Prime CS read, we have cut communication supplies and services by 20%. And it's because we had done it earlier, but also because people are not traveling, we don't want to impact also on internet. So we must still provide for money for internet so that people can be able to do virtual meetings and all that. That's why there is an fencing. Domestic travel and subsistence, we have done a cut of 50%, and this is a further cut to what we had under the BPS. For membership fees, dues, and subscription to professional and trade bodies, we have done 100% cut. Foreign travel and subsistence, another transportation cost, we is suffering 20% further cut from what we had done earlier. Training, the same thing, another 20% cut. Hospitality supplies and services, unfortunately, yes, it's going to affect our hotels, but it's an area where if you cut travel, then definitely it also affects on that. Confidential expenditures, 100% cut. And contracted professional services, 20%. Monitoring and evaluation is an area we didn't like, but we had to do 100%. Even other operating expenses, 100%. Then all refurbishment of buildings, we have cut 100% in terms of the budget. Purchase of motor vehicles and other transport equipment is like frozen. No, nothing, 100% cut. Purchase of office furniture and general equipment, 100% cut. Purchase of generators, 100% cut. Rehabilitation and renovation, 100%. Housing loans to public servants, I think, is also affected. I think you have this table. It is an indication of where we have tried to focus on. We wish we had more on this. I think I already told you that most of the recurrent expenditure is what we call autonomous. You have very little to cut. And if I can just draw numbers for you so that I make my point, we have in this budget 2.832 trillion as recurrent expenditure. Out of this, we have domestic interest, which is 750 billion, and foreign interest, 260 billion. So only to service interest payment, that's 1.01 trillion. Then pension is around 186. So you talk about 1.2 trillion of 2.8. So 2.8 minus 1.8 is 1.6. Out of that, we have salaries here that I see here, wages and salaries of around 650 billion. And this includes salaries to sagas. And then you look at the others now, or junior secondary capitation, for instance, civil service reform, farming, KRA reforms, defense. All this, you have very little to cut. So the recurrent expenditure is basically, you can't do much. That's why the only area we could do, we tried our best to cut expenditure on recurrent, and we only managed to cut under the executive recurrent budget on O&M. You see on page 4, we managed 15 billion. Removal of the office of the first lady and second lady, we managed 1.2 billion. Rationalization of the budget for advisors was done by 50%, and we managed about 600 billion. And I think Parliament, you lost 2.7, Judiciary lost 500, and then private, there's capitation also, where we have lost about 1.7 billion. And then reduction of earmark provision of phase 2 salary adjustment, which was for all public servants. We have had to spend this 15 billion. And really, this is an area we would have wanted as National Treasury to make sure our employees at least are getting some salary increment. I think we indicated the Maraga task force. We request you to look at it, if possible, with some minor adjustment. It would really be good for our security sector.
Around how much?
Around 3.5 billion, which will be enough for at least to address the security sector, including police, and the other security areas. If you can look at that, that would be great. So I think I've answered that to say there is very little room. Then debt, our capacity to borrow is not there anymore. In the last 10 years, it has dwindled. I think when we started 10 years ago, our current capacity for debt was rated low, no high. And our possibility of risk, the debt.
But I want to tell members that we have really cut to the bone. We have cut to the bone. The negative side of the tax, when you don't have tax, then your only recourse now becomes cutting expenditure. So we are trying to do a very delicate balance between not living without the Finance Act, but also trying to figure out how the government can still have its operations with the bare minimum.